ABC News correspondent in New York. Good morning, Brad Melke.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right, so this is fast and furious and flip-flopping all over the place. Take us from the beginning. At one point yesterday, did our president say that he liked the bipartisan agreement between a couple of senators on fixing and strengthening the Affordable Care Act?
Well, that's right. Pretty much as President Trump was speaking in the Rose Garden, Lamar Alexander, the Republican from Tennessee, and Patty Murray, the Democrat from Washington, were hammering out an agreement, a bipartisan bill that would fund those cost-sharing reductions. Those are the payments to insurance companies that subsidize low-income Americans' health insurance plans. These are the payments that President Trump said he would not be making as of last week. He says Obamacare is virtually dead. However, this is a bill that would kind of prop up the Affordable Care Act. It would kind of plug some holes in the Affordable Care Act for the next 2 years. And so when he said that he supported this bipartisan plan, it was a little bit of a head scratcher, considering it does a little bit of the opposite of what he says he wants to happen over the next few years. But over the next sort of 12 hours, we saw this evolving position of him saying, I don't like this plan. I want Obamacare to go away. But if this is the Band-Aid we need for a couple of years to make this a little less rocky, then so be it.
All right, so it seems like the Democrats initially really like this fix. Republicans kind of silent on the whole deal.
Well, yeah, we've already seen some Republicans use the same language as the president, which is why are we giving these massive, they call them bailouts, to insurance companies when we're not actually getting wholesale changes to the Affordable Care Act. You know, these are $7 billion a year that go to insurance companies to subsidize poor people's insurance, essentially. But Republicans have been looking for more wholesale changes to the plan. You're also seeing that from some members of the House. So remember, even as we talk about if this thing does happen to clear the Senate, it would still have to get through the House, and there's a larger conservative bloc there that might not want to make that happen. However, both groups get something out of this. The Democrats get that key part of the ACA enshrined in law, if only for 2 years. They would also see funding restored to that PR machine that actually gets people enrolled every year. But Republicans would get stuff too. I mean, they would get an expanded variety of plans that don't conform to the traditional Obamacare rules. You'd have more pared down plans. You'd have states that could get waivers to not comply with as many of those rules. And people could get those catastrophic plans even if they were over 30. So there's something for each group to like, but there's something for each group not to like. Who could have guessed it? A bipartisan bill.
Well, it's a bipartisan bill, but it seems now after Republicans have said for the last 8 years they want to do everything to repeal and replace, they're in a sense strengthening and making a stronger foundation for the Affordable Care Act.
And one that goes just beyond their reelection campaigns in 2018, right? So you'll see this, if this does get passed, you'd see this all come to a head in a couple years as we're gearing up for an even larger sort of presidential year. And you got to think that some of the politics of that play into this right now as President Trump and a lot of Republicans around him do not like what they see in the Affordable Care Act. They want it to be dismantled eventually. They want to uphold their promises to constituents, but they also don't want to be blamed 2 years from now if things are really in chaos, which is what a lot of not just insurers but also doctors and patients groups say it would be.
Open enrollment starts at the end of the month. They want to pass a tax cut. They got to deal with DACA. They got to keep the government open. They only got 30-something days left. Where does this fit in the schedule?
Well, that's right. I mean, President Trump is saying first we're going to do tax reform now. You know, for months and months, the idea was we'll get health care reform passed and then tax reform. Now it looks like he is flipping those. It seems very doubtful that you would see anything beyond this bipartisan plan popping off in the next 30 days, right? I mean, he says that the votes are there for that Graham-Cassidy bill we were talking about a few weeks ago. That is not the case, at least not right now. So these senators are looking to get this bipartisan bill passed. They might even attach it to something more popular like a hurricane disaster relief bill to get it on the floor quicker. In the meantime, the budget and tax reform, as you just sort of insinuated, those are no joke in terms of actually getting those passed.
The whole thing gives you a headache, Brad Melke, ABC News correspondent in New York, following the circus in Washington, D.C. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.